Hello everybody, we have a classic Ferrari car today. This is an F430 after a clutch replacement. But what else can you do when you've spent a lot of money replacing the clutch on a Ferrari? Well, paint the plastic parts before the season, of course, to make it look nice, which is exactly what we're doing. All the parts have been dismantled and are already being painted. But just after all these manipulations, it is possible to see how Ferrari is organized under those parts, which usually nobody ever removes. Well, rarely anyway. But of course, nobody ever makes a video about it. But I got a bit carried away, so I thought I'd show you the whole thing. I have already shown you the epic with clutch replacement. If you have not seen, then watch my videos on the channel. There is about this car. The car is very well maintained, with low mileage. Here we had a great battle, but already, as you can see, everything is assembled. The box is in place, the clutch is in place. Well, if in general you want to change the clutch on a Ferrari F430 in between, be prepared to lay out about 6,000 euros. Well, that's the average statistic. Maybe more, maybe a little less, but on average it looks roughly like this. But of course, for Ferrari, this part is basically a consumable, so you have to be ready for it. But now, I'm going to show you something else. But that's just for starters. In general, look, the front and rear bumper are removed, dismantled, well, and accordingly, the sills too. Well, and how everything looks inside, I think many people will be interested, because my channel is usually watched by those people who love cars, well, and all sorts of equipment. Well, anyway, now we can have a look at what's going on here. By the way, tie rods are a normal condition for Ferrari cars. It's basically original here, it's the factory, but well. And Ferrari designs its own cars. If you watch the movie about Enzo Ferrari, I think a lot of things will become clear. Really was a very unique man, unique marketer, and everything else. As a matter of fact, old Ferraris become more expensive every year, so I think that the labor of Enzo Ferrari is not lost and did not pass by somehow, or did something wrong. He did everything right. People buy these things. People love these things. So despite some of the oddities in the assembly of these cars, especially the adults, there may be some neatness. But again, these are not assembly line cars. These are once handmade, but also still a lot of their solutions, even in 20-year-old cars, a lot of brands haven't even been invented yet. Anyway, I'm showing you the radiators now. This is such a very interesting washer fluid reservoir. It's behind the bumper, but it's very unusual here. If you're used to a different picture, these are actually other brands. Next to it, by the way, is a Maserati of the same years. But you can see, everything here has been designed to make the car go fast. Accordingly, everything is cooled down efficiently. As for beauty, it has its own approach, its own logic. Pay attention. Radiators on the left, radiators on the right, they are mounted on a tubular construction, more like a housing, like a fish tank. It's about the same here. It's a box that's made like this, which, by the way, is worth these few irons. They cost, I think, in the neighborhood of 1,000 euros, on which, in fact, everything is attached. Everything else. And by the way, you don't often see them without fenders either. By the way, pay attention. Trying to get there, you have already realized what this design is. It is, in fact, the very logo of Ferrari, the very coat of arms and shield. But here this option also costs money. Separately, such a badge costs in the neighborhood of 500 euros. If you suddenly want to buy it, it is such a plate, similar to a copper plate, on which all this business is drawn with enamel. Russian folk art of the golden ring, I think it was called Rostov Finift, if my memory serves me correctly. Anyway, it's something similar here. So, you see, the whole car is made of some of these interesting pieces of iron. And, in principle, I think that those who like technology, it will be very cool to see. It's the box that I'm talking about, the whole construction. I think in slang it is called spider, if my memory serves me correctly. Here you see, the signal is attached, and this frame itself, the very structure that holds the whole car together. Naturally, there is no beauty here, like in German cars. There may be a little bit of dirty welding, but again, It's all considered normal. But with all this, maybe some not very aesthetic approach, the result is a strong car. And I've seen after some very scary accidents these cars. But I will tell you that in any case, people are always mostly unharmed. Obviously, the car suffers a lot. But, again, that's the way it's designed to keep the pilot in one piece. Well, here's another legendary car like this next to it. The same Pininfarina made both of them. It's basically the same age. 2007 Maserati Quattroporto, 2005 Ferrari. Well, actually, look at what the Italians were doing in those years. I think it was probably the peak of the automobile industry in general because the Germans produced some interesting things in those years. But in general, it can probably be called the golden age of the European automobile industry. I don't know about Americans, but about Europe for sure. But about the color. Grey color, in general, such a rather controversial for Ferrari. Maybe for commercial purposes, it is not the best selling. But personally for myself, I would love to take it. Because Ferrari, especially the 430th model, looks very cool in grey. And I would like to get your feedback, what is interesting about Ferrari cars, and in general about Italian cars, just at the moment when there are such big works and there is an opportunity to show something separate, perhaps some units, assemblies. In general, write in the comments what is interesting, what is not interesting. That's all for today. I'm off to work. Goodbye everyone. Have a good viewing.